Hey everybody, it's Maggie from Personal Euphoria with today's plank story. If you don't want to do plank and you're standing, you're going to put your hands on like a counter. If you're sitting, put them on your desk. I don't have a counter or desk, so I'm going to pretend. But you're going to sit as tall as you can and then have your fingers nice and wide. Push down with your hands into that counter as you bend back. And then straighten back up, relax your arms, press down to bend back. So that's your move if you don't want to plank. So for our plank story, just a reminder, we are having an open house October 5th. And that's a fundraiser. You can get tickets for $20 at either the Noah Webster House in West Hartford or the Wethersfield Academy of the Arts here in Wethersfield. You can go to either of their websites. But we have been doing some prep, and the reason we're doing this open house is because we did an addition, and so you can kind of see how we made it old and new and reintegrated the kitchen, and it's a pretty cool house because it is supposedly built in 1666. But we've been doing some work to get ready for the open house, which, you know, is a lot of work. On the other hand, we're going to have a clean house, and it forces us to get some of our projects done. And I do believe, while this is our home and we love it because it is a historic house, we are stewards and it's a cool place to share, and that's part of it. And in getting ready for some stuff, we did dendrochronology, and we don't have the results yet, but that should show us how old the house really is. And I don't know if it's going to come back 1666, but I really want it to come back 1600s. So that I'm not disappointed, I've been thinking 1690. Matt is convinced it's going to come back 1715. And his theory is, like, as these houses age, everyone like tries to come up with ways that they're older, but the reality is it's probably a early 1700s house. If it comes back 1700s, I'd be a little disappointed. But I also rather have an honest answer. Like Matt said to me the other day, if it comes back 1700s, are you going to wish we didn't do it? No. The historian in me would rather have that accurate date. But I did get a little nervous about it the other day because I have a book. So this house used to be owned by Eleanor Buck Wolf, if you're familiar with the Eleanor Buck Wolf Nature Center. And I have like a book she and her daughter put together on the history of the house. And I probably read it when we bought the house over 15 years ago and haven't read it since. And I took it out and I was reading it, and it worried me for the 1600s date, because I had known there is no written record of this house until it passes from one relative to another in a will. And in this book, she mentions that will is 1712. Another place she says 1719. I'm pretty sure I've seen that will, and that 1719 date is correct, which means we know it's before 1719. But this house is also attributed to Sergeant John Deming. And now this will get a little confusing because all the Demings seem to have the same name. But there is John Deming. He was one of the first founders of Connecticut. His son, Sergeant John Deming, is who the house is attributed to currently from 1666. His son is Jonathan. So you have John, Sergeant John, and Jonathan. Since we've been in the house, we've thought it was built by Sergeant John in the 1660s. Her book mentions that people sort of just accepted and knew that this house was built by Jonathan, Sergeant John's son, in the early 1700s. But in living here, she found in one of the bricks, one of the fireplaces, a 66 and a 67. And so she thought that likely meant the house was built in the 1660s by his father, Sergeant John Deming. And I thought, well, if that's all we got to go on, and I thought there was more evidence, and there are arguments. People come in here and they say, like, well, because this is this way or this is that way. But then there's lots of things that people are like, this is atypical of any house from the time period. So I think the problem is there just aren't enough of these old houses to definitively say any one thing is anything specific, like is a clear definitive answer for a time period. What I will say is, in continuing to read her history, it was funny. So whether it was Sergeant John Deming or it was Jonathan Deming, Jonathan passes it to his son Gideon. Gideon passes it to his son Peter. And Peter apparently went to the First Congregational Church here in Wethersfield and was known as a tither, which I would have thought meant that he collected the tithe and the money from everyone. No, apparently what his job role was to keep people awake during church. And he did this with a pole with a squirrel tail attached to it. And if women fell asleep, he tickled them with the squirrel tail. And if men fell asleep, he whacked them with the other end of the pole. And I said to Matt, I'm guessing Peter wasn't very popular in town. But anyway, we are really hoping we get the Dendro results back before the October 5th tour, so we have an answer for all our guests. But I don't know. It's a special place, however old it is, and that's what Matt keeps saying. Even if it comes back 1700s, it doesn't change how cool the house is. So I hope you will come see it and support either the Noah Webster or the Weathersfield Arts Academy. Have a great day and keep moving.